Voy a explicar un poco de qué va este discurso. Es sobre la entrega de premios del Príncipe de Asturias de este año y uno de los galardonados fue Martin Scorsese, así que ya sabéis que esto va sobre el cine, el arte y nada, es un discurso que tiene algunas, bueno, palabras que son un poco más elaboradas, pero el resto yo creo que más o menos. Y mi pronunciación no es nativa, así que ya lo veréis. Bueno, empiezo. Your Majesties, distinguished laureates, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for this great honor. I feel humility and awe at this moment. I know it's customary to express such emotions in these circumstances, but believe me, I do feel humility and awe, especially for being in the company of the other laureates and of course in the company of the previous laureates, and for being standing on the soil that gave us for Cervantes, Goya, Unamuno, Picasso, Lorca, and Luis Buñuel, who is one of the greatest artists in the history of the cinema. Who else could I feel? I take this as an honor for cinema. So, I accept this award in the name of cinema with great honor and gratitude. Gratitude to all the artists who came before me and made this work that I have done possible. Because there isn't a single film or a single filmmaker that stands alone. We all end up in this great constant conversation, dialogue, questioning, answering, and provoking each other with our work across extraordinary distances, not only in space but also in time. The remarkable thing about cinema for me is that it is always present. It's always the now. For me, Buñuel's films are more alive and up to the minute than the last text messages you receive, these tweets or whatever we have on our cell phones, if you know how to use them. Peter Bogdanovich, the director, has said many times that there is no such a thing as an old film. It's just a film that you haven't seen. But today, when I see a film that it's really exciting, a film by a young or first time filmmaker, suddenly something happened. I'm taken, excited, I'm transported by what I could call it a cinematographic gesture that he or she creates. It could be a juxtaposition of one or two cuts, three or four images cut together, or it could be a composition. It could be a camera movement, it could be all these things. It could be music, silence, I don't know. All I know is that I'm taken by because I can tell that that filmmaker, the young person who was driving to do it that way, they had to tell this particular story and these particular images. That's what's the most precious and inspiring for me because it's house for me. I couldn't rest until I made that film that way. Otherwise, I just doesn't. Otherwise, it doesn't die. Make. Sorry. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense. And now, for young filmmakers in the world today, what an opportunity! They can do a film with anything. Films are made with cell phones and they have been shown everywhere. You have all these tools. There is no more excuses if you got the energy to go on and do it. And the same with film history. Most of the film history of the whole world, pretty much every decade, and almost all the countries of the world are now accessible. And believe me, it was not only that way and the 1950s. It really wasn't this way. But despite these opportunities, I have a great concern. I'm really concerned about cinema's past, yeah, but really more concerned about the future. I I know that in the practically of society, art is always very fragile. It's treated after is treated often as if it's not really important or essential to life. There is always someone trying to cut the art of the artist down to size. You know, they come up they come up with it's illusory, it's a diversion, but art is resilient. And when the dust settles in, the art will be there. The art will be standing, still present, devoid, on, devoid of the popular influences and fashion of the time of which it was made. Great art works out, out of context. I know this stands on its own. It's still present, and ultimately, then, is the need to create new work in response to that work. However, the art is affected by the climate in which it's created, and I'm really concerned about the climate around cinema today. On the one hand, we have what we always have had, denigrating cinema to a certain extent, belittling it, marginalizing it, and it's either just escapism or if it's worthwhile because it delivers an issue, a message. And on the other hand, wherever you look today, you have 24 hours straight moving images all the time, sound and picture poured into moving images, but cinema has now become such one current and great gushing torrent of moving images, and they have what they call menu. I mean, we all know this, so you have a commercial and there is an episode on TV series, and you also may have a video of a cat or of a dog or any some kind of animal. You also have access to instruction videos, reality shows, Lawrence of Arabia, reports, and so on. It all becomes now what they call content, a word that I really dislike. A serious discussion about cinema, critical judgment, particularly in my country, has been a cut off at the knees. Now that cinema is being constantly devalued, and at the same time technology allows anyone to make a film, everyone everywhere, that does that what does people do. That mean What that mean for young people? They may need to express themselves on a film through the moving images, but what kind of inspiration are they getting? With this atmosphere, what I mean is what will be the result? Are the values of the world being erode so we can't be sure if they are being inspired by an art of some search of truth, or just they are being inspired by commerce? Where do they go for that valuable inspiration? Who is supporting the art and the artist, and more importantly, the impulse to create art that stands on its own? How do we transform this poisonous climate around us? For one in which young artists can follow the light within them and spark and the soul. That one that one day it's so vital and important that we hold art in a place of honor and esteem in our culture. What you are doing here, it's even more important to honor freedom of choice. Thought, thought through an action that leads to art being created, and to give young people the confidence and the ability to create their own path through life, their own voice, so that they can see through all these slogans and salesmanship and huckstering, so they can see all the way on their own inner light that may lead to great art being created and which will enrich our future generations. I think that's where the real fight begins, the fight for the spirit. Of course, we have Cervantes, Don Quixote. Of course, we fought against the windmills, and it's been said that windmills may have represented the technology of his day. So, in order to preserve this spirit, he he fought that technology, and with that image on mind, one of the great and enduring images of our civilization, we can find a way to conquer our own technology so that artists can use against that technology. And with that image in mind, one of the greatest lasting images of our civilization, which comes from here, from this image, we can find our way to conquering our technology rather than the other way around, where technology uses the artist. So I accept this award in name of freedom and revelation, the freedom to find a quiet and focus in order to see through all these absurd categories they have now: trivial judgment, rating systems, and fashionable pronouncements, to see all the way through to the revelation of what we can name, but only to felt. For those of us who can find the grace and express it in art. Thank you.